All right. Board meeting to order. Everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I need a motion to amend the agenda to add an executive session for negotiations at the end.
So,
Second.
Austin,
Aye.
Dottie,
Aye.
Graver,
Aye.
Huber,
Aye.
Lecky.
Aye. Okay, there is no district community spotlight. Is there any public comment?
No.
I need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Austin,
Aye.
Dottie,
Aye.
Graver,
Aye.
Huber,
Aye.
Lecky.
Aye. On information items, we do have a legislative update from Director of Business Services, Brian Gustafson.
Well, good evening, everybody. I passed around this month's legislative update. A lot going on at the legislative level. They're about a month into their session, and thoughts are that it could extend even into July this year. But they are aware, as became apparent last year, that the School Finance Act still has to get done by the end of June. So stay tuned for that. The hopes are that the School Finance Act is done that first or second week of June. But as you know, with our budget timeline, that doesn't really fit things all that great for our plan. So I'll keep you posted as we go through there. I'm going to point out a couple of the big things. There are tons of bills. I think I mentioned last time, at least 50 that are education related. And I'll start trying to pick those out next month as far as, are they still moving forward and kind of surviving the process? But we'll hit some of the big ones. One that's not necessarily a bill, but that's the Colorado Recovery Plan. And this is part of that stimulus that came out in late December. We got our ESSER 2 allocation out of that, the $890,000. The state distributed 90% of those funds at that time and held 10% to determine what to do with those dollars. Well, this Colorado Recovery Plan is allocating that 10%. And some of the things that will impact education, we don't know how it will impact us yet. There's some funding for extended learning opportunities to address educational gaps. And I think we're going to see that as a focus in tons of different grants and all kinds of stimulus dollars that we continue to see, is trying to figure out how we do that. Some more money will go to the Building Exceptional Schools, BEST grants, okay? And then also some regulatory relief for educators with the idea of extending the renewal period for teacher licensure up to 7 years. So stay tuned for that. As this is just today that was announced, so we'll see how CDE and the state decide to start getting those funds out to schools and how those flow. In the legislative session, the school finance current year supplemental allocation is still rolling along. Not a lot of changes there. That, remember, primarily that's going to restore some of the enrollment loss, funding loss from this year to us almost get us back to where we were budgeted at the beginning of the year prior to the October count. But that has not yet been adopted as legislation, but it's close, and that also includes the rural funding we talked about previously. There is a mill levy equalization bill, and we talked about how this would be coming when we did our mill levy certification back in December. And without going back into all that, remember how in our certification, now we're supposed to indicate a tax credit to the taxpayers between the difference of what we're levying and 27 mills. And this goes way back to Tabor. It goes back to a case out on the Western Slope. Basically, it's been determined that CDE incorrectly is, I guess, determined how we were supposed to certify mills back in the early 2000s. So now they've got to fix it. And so this legislation is going to direct CDE, if it passes, to schedule a phase out of those tax credits. Well, remember, we didn't really give money to our taxpayers, but we showed a tax credit in our certification. Well, what's going to happen if this passes is over the next 19 years, up to 19 years, we're going to have to start reducing those tax credits, which means bumping up mills. And so stay tuned for how that looks. No more than 1 mill per year is what's built into this bill as it stands, and over 19 years. So it'll be interesting to see how this is modified even in the next month, because obviously that would have an impact here. Our general fund mill, remember, is 22.55, and the idea is to get to 27 to make sure to correct the error from a couple decades ago.
So, and that's what it is intended to get us up to the 27.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll have to see if the mill levy override mills would count to that or not. And that's unclear at this time. There's been talk before that they would, which means we'd be pretty darn close, because we certified, what, a little over 26 this year. So we'd be close there. But unfortunately, then that renders the mill levy override that our voters approved in the early 2000s kind of useless. I mean, not useless, but essentially it nullifies it.
Does it have to go to election because of a tax increase, or no?
I don't think so. I think this would be a legislative action based on an error from previously, and a legal finding in, I don't remember the name of the case, but basically Mesa County School District in the state of Colorado in the early 2000s. Yeah, so again, I provide a lot of that information back when we did mill levy certification, and I can bring back more details next month, but that could be impactful. Then the big one, especially right now, very timely, and a lot of news today on this, the CMAS testing update. There still is not a federal waiver of this requirement to do the standardized testing at this time. However, there is a bill working through the legislature to modify the number of CMAS assessments to be taken by students here in Colorado. And that proposes that kids grades 3 through 8 would only take 1 test. Usually they would take, I think, 2, right, Linda?
Well, yeah, sometimes 3. So
Yeah.
1 content area, which is 3 different assessments.
Right.
But if you were, some students had to do 9 different ones if they did English, language arts, math, and science, or English, language arts, math, and social studies, and that could have been 9 different sessions. This would break it down to 3 sessions for 1 content area.
Yeah, so kids grades 3-8 would only take that 1 content area. English language acquisition, right?
Yeah, English, language arts.
Would be grades 3, 5, 7. Math would be grades 4, 6, 8. And then 9th and 10th graders still take the PSAT, and 11th graders take the SAT.
And science and social studies, right now,
They're out.
we're not doing social studies, but science would also not be included, which is 11th grade as well. So that's 5th, 8th, and 11th. Nobody would do science.
Parents, under this, as it's written right now, would have the opportunity to opt in to tests.
If they wanted their child to do more than just the 1.
Yeah. And it would also,
I have a little bit interesting because it's like, okay, then we got to, not quite sure how that looks, but
yeah, listening to other districts talk, that would create some logistical
Yeah.
difficulties or challenges potentially. So we'll see how that unveils. So then this would also eliminate the use of the 2021 results in school and district accountability, as well as in educator evaluations. And the State Board of Education released a press release this afternoon in support of this bill. And once passed, which the speculation is that it will pass, CDE would then have to request a federal waiver to to really move away from the math reduction specifically. And that would take a process of going through some extended weeks of public comment.
Well, we're less than 3 weeks away from testing.
Yeah,
Yeah, middle
So-
school's like, yeah, so
So-
our window opens up the week after spring break. Some schools don't start until the week after, but we've got a couple students that are, or a couple schools that are starting literally that week, not the day after spring break, nobody wants to do that, but that first week. So it's coming down to the wire for sure.
yeah. And ultimately, I think the implementation of this bill will be different at different throughout the districts in the state. Trying to do what's best in certain communities and with their remote populations versus in-person populations and whatnot. On the backside are just some of the other ones to monitor. We talked a little bit about some of these, and I listed them out last time, but there is a bill proposed for school board compensation.
Ah,
There are, don't know how, of course, the funding mechanism is not identified, but a number of bills relating to educator recruitment, effectiveness, as well as an educator pay raise fund, and then financial literacy standards, and we've talked previously about potential civics requirements, et cetera. So a lot going on there, and March is always a big month as far as when the legislature is thinking about the School Finance Act, the long bill for next year, because this revenue forecast that's coming up on March 19th is just another step in the verification of the economic status of the state, and whether or not the governor's proposed budget can continue as submitted based on the economy. So, what questions do you have on that stuff?
I have a question, maybe it's you, maybe it's Linda, whoever's good to pick on. Just to refresh the memory related to the opt-in of tests. So the PSATs, those are not optional, right?
no, SAT and PSAT have been on the books and they've always been, we're gonna do them. And one of the things is that, it's done in one morning for students. It doesn't drag out over many, many hours, and the results are important. They use them, our kids use them for college entrance and graduation requirements and things like that. So
So those are opt-in?
no, the school's doing them, everybody's, yeah. So all of this has all been about CMAS. Because of the amount of time that they take. And many schools have been remote and they're just barely coming back into school, and then we're gonna spend all of these hours testing. So that's been one of the concerns. The results also, PSAT and SAT, you can get the results back much quicker. It takes a long time for us to get CMAS results back. All of those kinds of things kind of factor into it. And just knowing that we have so many kids that are still in remote situations, so there is no opportunity for testing remote. So if you're not comfortable coming into the school, so it's just an odd year. I mean, it's an odd year for testing.
So is that our choice? Is that the state's choice? I mean, who says, this one's opt-in, opt-out? Just given obviously the impacts of results then in terms of.
So that, normally a school district gets dinged if you don't have 95% or more participating. And this year they've relaxed all of that because, again, we've got some kids who's, are in remote situations. They're not comfortable coming in, and some school districts that are not even coming in, for in person. So they have relaxed the requirements around who needs to take it and who doesn't. Generally, if a student is in school for us on CMAS testing, then we're going to be testing those kids. But as always, parents do have some ability to say, I don't want to be testing. The difference this year for us is that if we do have a student whose parents said, I don't want them to test, we don't have a place to house them at the school district because we've got cohorts and we've got classrooms and things like that. So it's a little bit problematic that way. And we'll be asking parents that if they don't want to test their child, then they need to keep them home during testing time. We used to put them in the library and house them and things like that, but now we're talking cohorts and having supervision and things like that. So that's really the parents the parents would say, I don't want to test my child. And normally in a regular year, we'd be working really hard to make sure that we are testing every single kid, or every single student. But the state is recognizing that it is a unique year this year because of all the challenges that we have. The opt-in is if what just came out in the bill, which was, we found this out literally like 2 hours ago, is basically saying that if your child is only scheduled to take reading, but you would like for your child to have both reading and math, then you could opt in to do the opposite one. Again, it's kind of a logistical nightmare. I was just thinking about that. It's like, well, when do we do that? And then now we're mixing, which kids are doing what. So I'm not sure. It's not finally approved yet, and this is only what the state boards are backing, which is a big step because they are in favor of this bill. So that means that there is a pretty high likelihood that it will pass in the legislature, but it's kind of new to us. So we're just kind of wrapping our heads around it.
Brian, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you know with the new bill, the new COVID bill, what the education piece of that might be?
The federal stimulus? There's a lot of speculation, but
But you don't have any insight into that.
Yeah, just don't know. I've heard speculation that similar to our ESSER 2 rollout, it could come based on title allocations. So back in December, we received we're allocated $889,000 of ESSER 2 dollars based on our title formula. And the speculation is that dollars coming forth from this stimulus would be allocated similarly, and that the amounts could be between 2 and 4 times higher. But again, with guidelines and strings and who knows what right now.
Right.
Hopefully we know some more by April as far as details. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have concurrent dual enrollment opportunities at the high school from the high school admin team.
Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Appreciate it. I'm gonna share a couple of things on the screen with you.
I'm looking at you.
You all know our entire team, Karen, Pamela, and Cindy Gann, and myself. The way that we organize ourselves in the office, one of the things that Karen is really our specialist in curriculum, and Karen has done the yeoman's amount of work to get to where we are right now. She does the behind the scenes stuff to make sure that the articulations and all the communications and partnerships with colleges are exactly where they need to be. But we're excited to be able to share this with you. We want you to know so that you can help be our communicative voices out in the community and be positive about what our students have in terms of opportunities. We want you to understand what it means to have an early college set of opportunities and how we're working hard to expand it every year. The opportunities that our students have at a small 650 student high school in a rural part of Colorado are phenomenal. And that's not an understatement. We're sensitive to the language that's out there in the community that kids are leaving our district for other options. I don't think that's actually true. If it is true, they don't know all of the options that we offer, and that's why we're here, to have 5 other people, or maybe the other folks in the room, be able to help communicate and share the good news. So, early college is a big umbrella. Next slide. What we want you to know is that we continue to expand choice options for our kids. We want to build awareness. We want positive communicators. And we want you to understand the deep complexities of all of the agreements that have to take place to make sure that students can get college credit transcript. Next. So there are 4 different kinds of early college underneath this umbrella. There's advanced placement, there's career start, there's concurrent credit, and there's dual credit. I'm going to give you broad-ranging explanations for those, and you're gonna hear them repeated. So everybody, I think, in here is familiar with advanced placement. Those are high school classes that students take. They can take a test at the end of their class, and if they score a 3, 4, or 5 on that test, they can apply to any college to have those classes transcribed as college classes. Career Start is a program that we are in partnership with. Many districts in the Pikes Peak region are in the same partnership with Pikes Peak Community College. We have about 30 slots available for our students to be able to go down to Pikes Peak Community College and take courses on campus. Those are college courses that I give high school credit for. That's the same thing for concurrent credit. Those are college classes that are being offered not only from Pikes Peak Community College, but other colleges that I give high school credit for. And the last one is a dual credit class. Those are, again, high school classes that have been articulated with colleges across the region or even across the world that we can give college credit for. So those are the big umbrella pieces for the 4 different kinds of early college. Next, please. Karen?
Yeah, advanced placement's been around for a long time. Our teachers receive substantial training, usually in the summertime. We try to send people on a rotation of every other year. Sometimes it is every 3rd year, depending on what they need and what changes have happened with college boards. It's a grant-funded deal, and Gervais Pileggi has written several grants to receive money, and I've written several as well. And we've probably about $35,000 to $40,000 of benefit that our teachers have received to be able to go to training. There's always the exam. Of course, you hear about the famous AP exam at the end of the course. Our students pay for that. They have a GPA boost, just like college classes. And new is that we're going to allow students to appeal. So if they get a 5, which is the very highest score on an AP exam, which is only 5 to 10% of students in the nation that take this test, they could come back, maybe got a D in the class. They could come back and say, I got this 5, I've proven my deficiency based on the college credit. College would give them credit as well. We decided we would give them credit if they would like to appeal. So that's what we do. We've got 16 courses. Sometimes we're able to offer another little bit, depending on if we have a student like music theory or something like that. So we're able to increase that up higher than 16.
16 courses is not small potatoes. That's a lot of different course offerings in all 4 core areas. You see English, math, science, social studies, and even computer science. By the way, if any of you've got kids that are coming to school, if you're not taking the AP computer science class, you're missing out on a really easy college credit. Okay? Go ahead, next. So our concurrent enrollment classes right now that are taught on our campus are taught by a Pikes Peak Community College teacher or one of our teachers who Pikes Peak Community College has agreed to hire as a adjunct professor. They don't pay him, we do. Okay? So we offer English 121, which is basic comp, intro to literature, which you all probably took when you were in your bachelor's degrees, Math 121, which is college algebra, and Math 122, which is college level trigonometry. Now that's the one that we're going to add next year. So the exciting thing that we've done, Linda and I worked last year with Brian, and we were granted $50,000 from the Colorado Department of Education to expand our concurrent enrollment offerings. The way that we needed to do that was we needed to not rely on Pikes Peak Community College to send us a teacher. We needed to be able to have our own teachers teach it. So we were granted $50,000. We gave $12,500 to each of 4 of our teachers, and they are going back to school right now to get their master's degrees in their discipline. That is fantastic. Not only does that meet pillar number 3 of our strategic plan of building our own educator talent, we have an agreement, a gentleman's agreement with each of those individuals that they're going to stay here and continue to teach because we're paying for their master's degree. And it's a boon for them because they get to move over on the salary scale. So we're going to expand to 24 credits that will be taught by our teachers in the fall, beginning in the fall of 22-23.
So with UCCS, we have another category called dual enrollment. These are just the UCCS classes listed here. We have a new one this year down at the bottom, Project Lead the Way, Principles of Engineering. And what this means is that the students are taking our classes, but they can choose to pay an additional fee to have the credits transcribed at UCCS specifically. If you look there for the savings, it's pretty tremendous. To a family who would, instead of out of pocket, pay $1,400 for a class, they can get it for a much smaller fee, like $204. And so this is a huge deal. Right now, we do not have as many students taking advantage of this as we would like. So we need help spreading the word. That is very important.
I don't know where you could afford to credit 4 credit hours at $52 a credit hour for a French class, or Project Lead the Way at $102 a credit hour. That's amazing.
So what's the difference between the dual enrollment and the concurrent enrollment?
So a concurrent enrollment class is a college class that's taught on our campus that I give high school credit for. These are high school classes that a college agrees to give college credit for.
And the difference for our families is that for dual enrollment, the families help pay that fee for transcripting. So it's a choice if you're going to have transcripted at UCCS or not. I will also add that for the AP Physics classes, one of those credits is a lab credit, which is required for graduation. And so some degrees, you only need 1 credit for graduation, 1 lab credit for graduation. So they're already ready for graduation from college in that one category, which is pretty amazing. So, and then of course I've got a picture in the next slide of our kids out there in physics doing some real lab experiments there. Clear out of the way. The next university we work with is Metro State University, and this is for our ProStart classes. These are the foods classes. And our students perform, they go to competition, and they're evaluated on many things. Again, huge savings if students want to take advantage of this. And the great thing is that beyond just college credit, they can earn scholarship opportunities and get real life world experience with job opportunities.
And the cherry on top of that is that all those students that complete ProStart not only can have their high school credit transcribed as a college, they also complete certification. If they go through our entire program, they are certified as ProStart chefs and are able to be hired immediately by restaurants. So here's your career start. This is that program that we partner with Pikes Peak Community College. We have about 30 slots available for our students. Kids have to be eligible and they have to apply to get into it. This is at Woodland Park's cost. We pay for these students to be able to go to school and earn a certificate in one of these certified programs. The asterisks are the 2-year programs. So juniors and seniors can both go to these. Okay? The only agreement that we have with students is if they don't complete it, they have to pay us back. It's a big incentive. We pay for it, but if you drop out of the program or if you have a problem in the program, we're going to try to reflect that money.
Are these new, some of these?
So they're always changing. The Pikes Peak Community College is always bringing the new ones in. One of the most popular ones for our students is welding or diesel tech. We have a few students that are interested in fire science technology. That's a 1-year program, and we had a junior that went through it this year. The zookeeping is
That's
just,
the one that got my eye, for the veterinary.
Yep.
Didn't know we had any.
a lot of our welding students, our advanced welding kids that go through their freshman and sophomore courses, basically exhaust what we can do for them, and this is a great way for them to continue. But look at the programs. I mean, that's the stuff that folks are hiring in Colorado. Okay, next. So here's what we want you to see at a glance. We had 8 students last year, 8 students that were first-year career start kids. They're getting 141 credit hours this year. We had 6 students complete their second year, and over the course of those years, that's 346 credit hours that our kids are getting at Pikes Peak Community College. Next year, we'll have 17 first-year kids and 2 returning second year. We have 30 slots available. We only had 20 qualified. Okay? Next. Ascent?
Yeah, so Ascent is a program that also we want to be taking better advantage of. We usually get 1 or 2 slots a year, and it comes from state. And Linda helps work those details out. To qualify, the requirements are pretty strong, but basically it pays for the entire first year of a student's education through High State Community College. And they technically don't get a diploma as it was the same class, they are delayed, so they're still one of our students. But it's a great opportunity. We want to spread the word. We don't have students apply for this, even though we push them and try to get the word out. It's tough. And test scores are a huge reason kids can't qualify for this, because they don't have those reading and math proficiencies that we keep talking about for graduation. If they don't have those scores, they can't qualify for this program. And for years, we've had students that are interested, but they don't qualify. That's part of the push for standards, and the reason we really want to raise the rigor of classes is because they're not even eligible to take community college classes
For free.
I mean, they have to take remedial classes, and we do not want.
The good
And
news
they
is,
have to meet, Pikes Peak has, it's their, entrance requirement.
Exactly.
So that's not us determining what they have to do, but it's Pikes Peak, they have to meet their minimum requirement.
Bottom line, colleges want kids that are college ready. They don't want to do remedial classes. So we want that same thing.
the good news is, you remember the last presentation we gave you, we were concerned 3 years ago with 29% of this year's seniors being ready. Well, we've moved that number to 55. So that's good news. We've got almost double the number of kids eligible. Next slide, Cindy, please.
What's the bar? Is it an A, a B, a C?
Oh, no, for SAT.
Like to call that.
For
SAT
SAT.
slips.
Yeah, it's that same bar that we have for our graduation now with SAT 500 and 473.
So as long as you graduate, you can do it.
Well, and get the.
In theory.
Yeah, there are
In
other.
theory. No, exactly.
Yeah. Not quite that.
So, University of Colorado Springs has an agreement with us that if we have some students who exhaust all of the curriculum that we can provide for them, maybe we've got an advanced science student or an advanced math student, and they get done with our curriculum by the time they're a junior, we can send them to University of Colorado Springs as a junior and a senior. We pay for that. Woodland Park High School pays for that. And they can complete college courses that I'll turn around and give high school credit for. We had 2 students or 3? 3 students this year taking advantage of that. Next slide. And last but not least, if any student at Woodland Park High School, out of their own park, if they want to take college classes from any university in the world, we will let them do that, and I'll give them high school credit for it. That's a no-brainer. If they're willing to take that next step and take an advanced course, I'll be glad to give them high school credit for it. In recent years, we've had students take classes from Vanderbilt, and even 2 students that took classes from Edenhoven in the Netherlands. You might recognize who those students might have been, but we gave high school credit for that. But those fees are on that. Last slide for me.
So this year, what we're working on currently is trying to get these classes articulated with UCCS specifically and Pikes Peak Community College. So it's 19 credits total we're working on. It's not a guarantee that all of these will be fully articulated. You have to go through, the teachers have to go through interviews, we have to have correct textbooks, and go through all these requirements, and syllabus and final exam and all kinds of deals. But we're hopeful that we can get these classes through the system and approved so that our students could benefit from an additional 6 classes, depending on the calculator.
This slide's intent is we're not stopping. Our goal, and you've heard me say this to kids before, our goal is that students should spend at least half of their day during their senior year in high school, either in some sort of a college class or an internship. We want to continue to expand opportunities for students. These are advanced classes. These are hard high school classes that we want students to be able to be rewarded for taking. Last slide. So here's what we want you to spread. Last year, we had 410 seats taken in our early college classes. 410 students were sitting in an early college class. 410 seats were taken up in an early college class. Now, some of those are the same kid, but that's 410 opportunities that our students had. Next year, it's 298. You might ask, why is it less? Well, this next year's senior class is 50 students smaller than last year's, or current year's senior class. In 2021, we had 9 concurrent credit classes that were offered on our campus. We had 2 English classes and a math class at Pikes Peak Community College. Next year, we'll have 12. And in that following year of 22-23, we'll have 24. And the number of dual credit opportunities for our kids, 32 this year. We're expanding that to 51 next year. We're trying. We're working our tails off to make sure that our kids' opportunities for early college are better than any place else in the region. And we think we're doing a good job of getting close to that. We want the folks in Woodland Park to know it. We want you all to know it, and we need champions. I think that's the last slide. You have questions for us?
What's the grading scale system for these?
Those are on their own system. It depends. AP is College Board. They own it. We follow them. If it's a college class, we got to follow the college. If it's our class that's articulated, then we use our grading system, unless they tell us differently.
So that's the confirmed enrollment.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I have a couple questions. One is, first of all, this is fantastic. I mean, I knew we were doing some of this, but just to see it all.
Right, I know.
I'm just wondering if you guys have thought about how we can get this all on a page. So, even to put it in the paper, on one, but just a snapshot, all the stuff kind of consolidated. I think it's very powerful. My second question is, do you have any statistics on internships at all in terms of the kids that are doing internships? And I know you talked about it, and from a personal perspective, I just know how valuable that's been to my son. And I really believe that some of the colleges love.
They do.
So,
I think our kids are really benefiting from it. Statistically, all I can tell you personally is how many kids we've had go through it. We had quite a few this year that have taken advantage of it. Unfortunately, we looked at numbers this year, and we're down a little bit for requests next year. That may be due to the fact that we've started to add a lot of rigor to it, rather than just students going to a program or going to a work site. We started to ask them for some background, not background.
It's training.
uh,
How to address an adult, how to answer the phone, all of those things that you really want to.
I do want to mention, we're in a very new agreement with Pikes Peak Business Education Alliance, PBEA, that is working to coordinate all of the internships for Pikes Peak Regional Schools.
that would be great. I guess that would be my feedback. It definitely needs kind of New York, but yeah, it needs some. Anyway, I think that's also something that we can highlight. On one page or something that is also very good.
So we have 60 months this current year,
We
and
have
then we have
about
about 40
40.
for this first year.
What else? We're excited.
It's fantastic.
It's just funny, because we know it like easy, we know. We go, oh, we'll just do Pikes Peak Community College. Oh, we'll just do UCCS, take the pre-calc, and get 4 credits. But then you're like, okay, not everybody knows all this. Like, we need to make sure everybody knows what we're doing.
Well, and honestly, it is. It's a little confusing. There's different ways
Sure.
to get, but if there is some simple way to just, everyone doesn't have to know, like, how to do this or how to get there, but the counselors can guide you, but here's how,
Yeah.
I think it would be very valuable.
I will say out loud, you didn't ask the question, but one of the things that we don't have here, we don't have an associate's degree. But we do have an opportunity for kids to be able to get 24 credits on our campus and then articulate more if they want. We really do want folks to value that we're a small town with small town traditional ideas. And our kids are getting to be high school kids while they're also getting some college experience, rather than some other opportunities in the region that you take up your entire junior and senior year, and it's a college experience to lose high school.
Given the,
Chris, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, Chris would like to get a question.
Oh. I'll take it for you. Yeah, given the rigor that's here, being college classes, do you have, like support systems, since these are, you know, master's levels, teachers and so forth, or potential stats on pass, fail, you know, what are the statistics for these?
I don't have statistics for you. I will say though that if it's a university class that is articulated with the universities do not want parents involved. In fact, they will not allow us to post grades and attend campus because that's part of the contract. Because they want those students to really own what we keep saying, you know, own their own learning, be responsible young adults, and really parents need to
Yeah, we
step back.
don't find out what the grade is until like 5, 6 innings.
Correct.
And I would say, especially the career start, it's $3,200 a semester. And we've had some situations, like we had one girl a couple years ago went to rehab. And she was just in a bad spot. So but we were like, okay, you almost got $3,200 because I'm sorry that she's having a struggle, but you promised, you had a contract with us that you were gonna do this. So that's a pretty big motivator. That's a lot of, it's $7,000 that it comes out to total. So for those, and then I would say, because I post the English 121 and 115, rarely do we have under a C. Rarely.
Yeah, if the students have to test into those classes as well.
Yeah.
So like a high school community college class, you have to have a 570 on the SAT and math to get into their college algebra class. So if they're already very successful students typically.
You know, you guys, one of the problems is, for some of these classes, the kids do have to have higher scores. And you do have some opportunities for kids to get some additional help.
Yes, actually, yes, we do. So for our, thank you, yes. Through our Ingenuity program, which is our online platform, we are able to offer SAT prep for both the math and the language arts. And students can take modules depending on what area they're low in. So maybe they're low in the hard algebra skills, which some of our honors kids have had that since 7th grade, and they are low in their basic algebra skills. So they can take those classes and advance to be able to score higher on the SAT. So they're also available through NASDAQ as well.
Thanks for letting us come and share the excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
We'll share. Counseling touches. So what does this look like related to? It's good stuff, right? It's always about delivery. So, you know, if I'm a freshman, what's the goal, I guess, of, you know, that one touch every year, then somebody says, hey, this credit is half, this credit's 4. Anyway, so what can you share about them getting that?
Definitely, every conversation we get to have with kids and their parents, we mention this, that we're continuing to expand. We want students to take advantage of it. Definitely once a year, the counselors are pushing.
A kid comes in, and so they will review your future.
We backward map the 4-year plan. When students tell us that they're going to college, when they're a freshman, we try to set that first year of college and backward map to make sure that they take the classes that will get them ready for it. It's a constant conversation, a constant battle, because the tendency for some students, especially at 14 years old, is not to take very hard classes.
And the other piece too, when they come in as freshmen, we just did tours. We asked if anybody wanted to come in for tours. And so you're always telling them everything, you know, because you don't know what the kid's interested in, understand. Like you could mention culinary and they're like, oh, that sounds interesting. So then you go, hey, Metro State, like we got this thing going, it's awesome. Or they go, welding, oh my God, I love this room. You go, oh, career start. You start, you know what I mean? You talk it up to them at that point, because then some kids walk in the welding room, they're terrified. And they're just like, no, this is not for me. You're like, okay then, let's keep walking. So yeah, I mean, we try to stir that early, and especially if we have parent attention as well, they're like, what? Say that again, what could happen? And we're like, yes, that's exactly what could happen. So, and we have some really dynamite kids, like one of the kids that comes with Darren Ganger is this
awesome welding kid, and he's spoken at different presentations we've had. He was like the perfect kid for that program.
He's a regional champion.
Right. He's gone to the championship. So
So I had it on the same thing, that the counselor piece of it is, because I've experienced this firsthand as well, is after these kids take these courses, to make sure that they understand their next step. Because if they don't understand that they have to go out to Pikes Peak and transfer those credits, they're not on there. And so, as an overbearing parent, I figured that out because I looked at the transcript on the college that you applied to, and I'm like, wait a minute, where's all your credits?
Yeah.
And then so I had to go back and figure out, okay, yes, so some of that just as a high name is probably just my but just that back end to make sure, hey, you're taking all this stuff, but make sure that they.
right. And
Oh,
the teachers that actually teach those courses, they're pushing it
Yeah.
like you can't believe. You know what I mean? Like, they'll push the kids, my own, to the pre-cap with Ellie. And then I paid the $200 and got a UCC, you know. I also was I should have made my kid do it. He's not gonna do that. He didn't care less. I care. I only paid
We
$200.
paid them, we paid them.
Right.
Also, one company, one this transcript,
But, yeah.
exactly where I was. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. All right, that leaves us to board action items. Supplemental budget resolution number 1.
All right, so when we get new sources of revenue that come in after an adopted budget, we need to do a supplemental resolution to be able to allocate them in our budget and spend those funds if necessary. We have 2 sources in the grants fund. One is from the Woodland Park School District Foundation, and donations had been collected and then sent to our foundation for a memorial project for Neil Levy, recognizing Neil Levy for some improvements at the Meadowwood Park baseball facility. And so $37,191 was collected by the foundation, which in turn forwarded those funds to us. And now I have to appropriate them somehow into our grants fund to be able to spend them. And so there's a community group that is working on a potential project to improve the field out there. And they'll have to work with the city, and the city will have to work with the school district to create a memorandum of understanding on how then we'll flow these funds to that project. So right now, they are sitting in our grants fund, and in order to spend them, we need to pass this. I don't anticipate any expenditures here this year for that particular purpose. Probably more like next year, just looking at where the timeline is on that project. The second thing is an additional $10,000 in the school counselor core grant program. And that additional $10,000 is directed toward FAFSA completion related activities. And so I don't know exactly what those activities entail, but I know that that federal application for financial aid, the FAFSA, as I'm sure all of you have experienced with your kids that have come through high school, right? That's an important part, kind of like you're saying, Nancy, of the next steps if wanting to pursue educational opportunities after high school. This particular grant is supposed to assist in that process somehow. So to spend it, we need to approve that $10,000. So those 2 grant sources total $47,191. And I don't know if there's additional information I can offer or answer.
What's the definition of assistance? Is that personnel? What's that?
That I'm not positive yet.
Sure.
All I've seen is the very basic, quick blurb on the allocation. And that makes me believe there's a little bit of discretion for what that could be used for.
Do we have a representative from the school, kind of dumb question, on that Levy Memorial Project?
Well, I guess technically Joe Roscom, if he's not the representative, and he's listing on YouTube, he's just been voluntold that he's the representative, but I know he's attended some of the planning sessions and understands what's going on, how it will impact kids coming through Woodland Park School District.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay, we have supplemental budget resolution number 1 for fiscal year 2020-2021 in accordance with CRS 22-44-110, paragraph 5. The Board of Education of Woodland Park School, RE2, hereby authorizes the expenditures of additional revenue for fiscal year 2020-2021 according to the following distribution: designated purpose grant funds, local revenue, the Woodland Park School District Foundation, Levy Memorial Project, $37,191, state revenue, school counselor core grant program, $10,000, total supplemental revenue, $47,191, and authorizing those expenditures. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Woodland Park School District RE2 adopts these resolutions to appropriate expenditures according to the above distribution. I need a motion to approve the supplemental budget resolution number 1 as read.
So moved.
Austin.
Aye.
Dottie.
Aye.
Graver.
Aye.
Huber.
Aye.
Lucky.
Okay, so the next thing we have is resolution appointing finalist as superintendent of Woodland Park School District. Appointing a finalist for superintendent for Woodland Park Schools. Whereas the Board of Education has considered the candidates included in the district's lists of finalists for the position of superintendent, and whereas the Board of Education has selected a finalist to appoint as superintendent, and whereas the board declared its 4 finalists at least 14 days before the Board of Education made this appointment pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, subparagraph 3.5. Now, therefore, be it resolved and declared by the Board of Education of Woodland Park School District RE2, the following person is appointed to the position of superintendent for Woodland Park School District: Dr. Matthew Neal. Approved today, March 10th, 2021. I need a motion to approve the resolution as read.
So moved.
Never moved.
I second it.
Austin.
Aye.
Dottie.
Aye.
Graver.
Aye.
Huber.
Aye.
Lucky.
Aye.
Excellent. And we are not on to the C4 action items, so that will be moved to another meeting. And I would like to, for anyone that is on, that was involved in the process, I'd like to thank you very much for your participation and all of your input. It's been very valuable, and we very much look forward to our next superintendent and the next years coming in the district. So thank you. We have the superintendent report.
Okay, I have, I do have some SAT scores. There's a little bit of a caveat from when I normally talk about scores. As you'll recall, the PSAT and SAT was canceled last April. So this particular class would have taken the test in April, and then the state offered an opportunity in September and October for students across the state that wanted to. And different districts handled it in lots of different ways. Some districts gave vouchers to kids and said, go out and do it. Our district said, we want all of our kids to take the assessments. And so I can put these up, but I also have them in front of you. And what's different then is that normally if I report out scores, it's a Colorado sanctioned assessment. We get the means from across the state. We are able to compare ourselves to how everybody in the state did. But none of that happened because it was not official, because of the circumstances that the testing was under. So you can't really compare us to how the state did. You can't compare us to how other districts, some had lots of kids, some just gave vouchers to kids, and they went out and did the SAT on their own, on an SAT day. So, and like I said, I don't have how we compared to the state, because the state didn't even compile the information. What I do have, though, is that, and normally we kind of report out on mean scores and that sort of thing. What we did for this was we were looking at those benchmarks that they've been talking about. So they've been talking about students have to reach a 470 in it's EBRW, which is evidence-based reading and writing. But it's really the reading and writing portion has to be at least a 470, and that's what meets the graduation requirements. The math has to be at least a 500. So what you're seeing there is you're seeing for the class of 2021, these are seniors in September that actually took the test that they should have taken as juniors in April. And it's comparing them to how they did in the spring of 2019, which would have been the previous year. So you can see that in reading, our seniors increased basically 13 percentage points in reading over that time, and our math increased 21% in math over that time. And like I said, they've been working good. What's interesting too to note is that as you look at that, you have to also factor in that these are the juniors that had no school. Well, they had school, but it was remote, so all of the spring was all remote learning, and then summer, and then they had our seniors would have had about almost a month before they took the test. So again, it's kind of an interesting dynamic on what the year looked like as far as that goes. So that's kind of, we were shown gains, and again, we like to say that our students were working really hard. There's a little bit in there of saying, they've had some additional time. So it's hard to know exactly the reasons, except that we're feeling like our kids are making gains and our kids are working really hard. As you look on the back, then you'll see the class of 2022 would be our juniors, and they should have taken the test as, so you can see that they increased 13% in reading and writing and 7% in math from the previous year. So again, we were seeing nice growth there, and nice growth given a challenging time, I guess is what we're trying to say. But I can't tell you how they did based on how other students in the state of Colorado did because of the unique circumstances. SAT and PSAT will go on as scheduled. It's always been on the table. People are, we need those for graduation scores. We want all of our 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students to take them, even our 9th and 10th grade, because it does help us identify where are our students. Are they on track? Do they need additional assistance, as they begin to work towards those graduation requirements? Do they need to do some more work if they're going to qualify for college courses and so on? So PSAT, SAT has always been on the table. That's never been a question. It's been CMAS all along that's been the problem as far as what's going to happen in April. And we're hoping that we get all students in to take the SAT and PSAT. Same thing, there's no remote option. They all have to come in. So that's the, there are some assessments, like we do our MAP testing, which is our kind of benchmarking. Our students do those 3 times a year. They have come up with ways that we can do that remotely. It's not great, but we can do that. But these high stakes state assessments, you have to be in person. There is no remote option.
So on the math, I'm looking at the class of 2022, that's like 32%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the district's goal number? Like what's the percentage you're looking at? And then what are they doing to hit that?
Well, their percentage is to get everybody there as much as possible. And the one that you're looking at is that these would be your, this 2022 would be juniors this year. So they took the test last fall. They will be taking, and they will be taking the SAT this spring. And so they're working hard to make sure that they've got them all up, above the, 50%, higher would be great.
So I'm just curious, did you look at the class of 2020?
No,
How they did compared to,
no, because they would have taken CMAS the prior in 2019.
I'm talking for the SAT.
Oh, for this, how they did? No, we didn't go back. And like I said, we're just, no,
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because it has been a tough year.
yeah.
So how different did the kids this year really do? Like, what was the impact? It'd be interesting if it was close to the same or,
Yeah,
you know, a lot less or, but anyway.
Yeah, sort of look at this as standalone without
well,
comparing it to anything.
yeah, and that's a little bit the way we're looking at CMAS to a certain extent in that, are we testing all kids? Are we not? Are we, you know, how many have been in, how many have been out? So again, you know, trying to make sense of some of the results. Even our benchmarking, you know, we do math testing. And what's been interesting this year is that normally we have a fall testing time, we have a winter testing time, we have an end of the year, but just given where our kids are, our windows have been all over the place. So kids are testing at different times. It's really hard to make comparisons. Some kids are, you know, when we were in hybrid, it took forever to get testing done on kids. So it's just been more challenging this year to really make sense of the data. Although I will say that the state keeps saying that they need data from CMAS, and we do use those math results individually. So when we get those scores back on kids, you know, the teachers are looking at those right away and saying, oh, we've got to, you know, a student needs these kinds of supports or whatever that might be. So those have been really valuable. Let's see, any questions on that? And then just had a few other things. We talked about the CMAS testing. The vaccinations are interesting. We've sent out 400 plus invitations to all of our employees. That includes everybody, teachers and our food service, bus drivers, substitutes, and so on. And we've had 225 plus appointments. Many have received both the doses, you know, not all, but anyway, we're getting lots of people vaccinated, and that was a big talk. I was out in Gateway today getting ready for CMAS, and that was the talk on the table today. We are starting spring online registration. So last year, we, you know, normally in years past, we always do a big registration in August. It's a big, you know, it's come back, stand in line, sign all your papers. And last summer, given COVID, we, Tina and her team at the last minute or, you know, scrambled to put together an online registration. And they actually had to teach themselves how to do it because the training on how to do it came after we needed to open up registration. But we went through our first online registration. They're getting ready to open that up so that parents can fill out all of the forms online and they can register students. And that's going to be available online this year. So we're really excited about that. And they worked really hard to make sure that we're up and going. At the high school, students have all chosen classes. And so once they do that, then they'll start to run schedules and see how the schedules line up. So we're kind of moving along. It's that springtime. The high school talked about building visits. We've had fifth grade families. We had 50 families actually tour the middle school. On the last conference, February 12th was parent-teacher conferences. And so because we didn't have students in the school that day, we opened up the middle school and parents and families could sign up for tours. And so they had 50 students or 50 families through that process to come and tour the middle school. And along with that, we've also had 5th and 8th grade, kind of those transition years, tour the buildings. And it's been a little bit challenging because, you know, we got to keep cohorts safe and they should be, you know, we're trying to schedule it at times. It's not a big long day where they get to eat in the cafeteria and all that kind of stuff, but they do get to go over and see the school and walk around. And as they were saying, you know, see at the high school, they get to see some of the different classes and things like that. So it's a good, again, just that whole idea of transitioning kids. So that's been fun. Let's see, we have spring break coming up. So a reminder for that. And we have no parent-teacher conferences because we did those in February. So, you know, we've always traditionally had parent-teacher conferences right before spring break. But so just a reminder that Those were done in February. We don't have those right now. And it's really hard to believe, but we're starting to make plans for this summer. So I met once. I have another meeting coming up on summer school. We're planning summer school for at all levels, and we're starting to hash out the dates and the times and what that's going to look like, and looking at summer professional development and just all. It's hard to believe. Once spring break hits, then it just flies from now until the end of the school year with lots of things, going on. And the other thing is that starting to have discussions about what will the end of the year look like, and I'm sure that the high school will keep us posted on lots of conversations downtown and with us on, can we do graduation? What's that going to look like? What do all of the typical activities that we do? So we'll have more details as we go along, but those are a big part of high school, or actually all of the schools. They all want to do all of their end of year activities. All the elementaries do their lots of fun things, and so they're trying to figure out ways to accommodate at least some of that, given these times. So you'll be hearing more about that as we get into the spring a little bit more. Yeah, any questions?
Thank you. All right, are there any Board of Education reports? I think we've spent plenty of time together over about the last.
There. I'll just offer, Boosters is looking to have a meeting with the school, just to kind of get an update on kind of where they're at. You might be able to chime in pieces of that too. But I think the piece that I take away from that is thinking about these organizations within the school that represent the community connection to our school. Boosters is that, I see DAC is that, those just seem like things we could work on. And whether that's, maybe the school meeting the community halfway or something, but at least say, hey, what can we do to encourage these community relation pieces? Because obviously I feel like that could use some help. And these are just extra ways to say, hey, where's the community that can be with us in that? Where are the community people that can be with us in Boosters? Because the financial help, Brian, has it been 2 recently? I mean, I know in the past, it's been a good number. Businesses want to chip in and support.
Number of what?
Dollars and cents in terms of how much Boosters can help support our teams and different things.
Well, I know previously they provided scholarships, scholarship process for student
Buy equipment.
athletes, contributions to the different programs to help with supplies and equipment. And I can't speak to the entire distribution, but only to one segment.
Like what kind of numbers have we seen?
Yeah, I was trying to dig in my brain, which is tough to do these days, but,
I'm not the only one.
yeah. I mean, what's coming to mind, and don't hold me to this, but I think that, we've had anywhere from 7,000 to 14,000 that we've been able to give out based on sponsorships. So it's definitely a great group. It's a great benefit for our athletic community and coaches. So I guess I will echo that. Yeah, we're meeting with the school district and try to figure it out, but we definitely need to move that forward. We've got a skeleton crew right now, and a lot of those folks are rolling off. So.
It just seems like win-win, right? We need the finances. The businesses are willing to support. And so wherever that school community connection can come to, doesn't mean, hey, community, you need to step up, or it doesn't mean school, hey, you need to step up. I think it's one of these meet in the middle, and it wins relationally, and it wins financially for our district. So there you go.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, I need a motion for us to adjourn to executive session for negotiations pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 24-6, -402, subparagraph 4E. Second, Beth?
Austin.
Aye.
Dottie. Fraser.
Aye.
Huber.
Aye.
Lucky.
All right.